again, we are back on a Monday. This is episode 202. And yeah, we have some great things to talk about tonight about the Bitcoin and silver. But it may not be a long show, but that's okay. It's still good information. So as we always say, stay stacking, stay stacking, stay stacking. Your Satoshis, your ounces, anything else that you may be invested into. And that's one of the things that we like to stress here is just chip away a little bit at a time, just a little at a time. It doesn't have to be big chunks. Everybody thinks it has to be this amount of money. No, just whatever you got, chop away. Chop wood is what we used to call it, chopping wood. So once again, first things first, I give an update on my beautiful wife. She is resting comfortably here next to me. So I've been keeping her company. She's still on bed rest, but we'll be getting her off of bed rest hopefully later on this week. That is the hope, and that's what we're working towards. So she is here. She's resting, and she may be sleeping a little bit, but yeah, she is doing wonderful. She's doing great. Everybody's happy. Everybody's in good spirits, so that's a good thing. Other than that, don't have too much going on. I will fix the chat. I'm sorry. Let me fix that chat. Okay. So yeah, we're going to talk about a couple Bitcoin plays that I've been reading about over the weekend and also this morning and this afternoon. And then we'll get right to it. So first thing we're going to start with, and I apologize, I am not on the laptop, so I can't share my screen for some reason. But we're going to go to the prices. So first thing we like to go to is we're going to go to the Bitcoin to USD price. And I'm sure everybody's seen this little surge today. Right now, I have 69,850 is the price that I have right now. And that was some good movement. We've seen earlier today, it cracked 69, a couple times got pushed back down to 68. But now it looks like, I look at the chart, looks like it's running pretty good. Nice upward swing. And maybe the two articles that we'll go over have something to do with this price action. So Bitcoin is looking great. Like I said, I always give you the long view. So over 6 months, it's only up about 9.3%. And over 1 year or year to date, not even a whole year, just means from January 1st to today, we are up 58.02%. And I know Bitcoiners are used to being up higher than that, over the years. I am too. But being up 58% on an investment, that's a wonderful thing. So we're doing wonderful right there. Hey, hi, Mini Duck. Hello, Mini Duck. Thank you for joining us, Mini Duck. Like that name. So Bitcoin is doing well. You see where we're at, right? So we're about to wants to test 70. It wants to hit 70. And then after that, it's got to test that all-time high. So that's what we're really looking at right now from a technical standpoint. Now, there are some charts out there, and I looked at them, that a rejection at 70 could be a problem. It's never a problem with Bitcoin, right? We've been here a long time doing this, man. Rejection at 70 ain't nothing, man. I remember getting rejected at 10, 3, 4 times. And we thought, oh, is it ever going to go past 10,000? It always breaks through what it needs to break through. So, yes, indeed, we're right here. It's going to be an interesting night. I'm going to be up late and just keep my eye on the price movement. It's going to be interesting. And I love that. I like being up at night, just checking to see what's going on in the Eastern markets. And so, yeah, so it'll be a good night. So let's go to our other one we want to talk about. Let's talk about silver. I always go to silver first because of the silver ratio. Silver is your best play right now. It's close to 80 to 1, meaning it takes 80 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. So silver is the best play right now. And you should buy that until about 40 to 1. And then you can start adding gold to your portfolio, or you can use the silver to buy the gold, however you like to do it. So the ending price today was $33.93. It had gone over 34 early in the morning, but not much movement. It was down 0.38%. That's not much. So it's trading sideways, but it's at a good spot. Already broke that resistance at 32.50 and broke the $30 resistance. So, right now it has time and it has room to fly. Now, one thing that we want to talk about is if you have silver and you're looking to sell your silver, they have a chart down here, and I'm using ATMEX, where you can see the silver coin values. So you have an American Eagle, for example, per ounce is going to be 33.92, but over here with the premium, it is 40.42. So you're getting about almost $7 in premium right there. So hey, hi, Ratty Arts and Scowl Black Raw. What's your name? Oh, okay. My name is Simon. From the Assets of Arbitrage. You may be new to the broadcast. Yes, I am Simon. As you have another top valued silver coin, the silver maple leaf. Now that bid is all the way up to 39.92. So you're getting right there about $6 premium. The silver Krugerrand as well is at 40.42. These are high level coins, and sometimes you like to buy the high level coins because you can get the highest premium on them, just like the silver Britannia. It is at 38.92, not 0.90, at 38.92 cents. And the Austrian Philharmonic, 40.42. So as you see, the premium ones are the Austrian Silver Philharmonic, American Silver Eagle, and the Silver Maple Leaf will get you the highest premiums if you are looking to sell. And that's pretty good. Same thing goes down here. If you have some some better known ounces, because you have what is just a 1 ounce silver round, it is 37.42. So it doesn't command as high of a premium. But nonetheless, silver is doing well out here. Let's see gold, in case you already have some gold. Gold closed the day at 27.59. So that is strong. Down here, you're going to see the same thing. But the premiums are just higher. With American Gold Eagle, you're going to see a premium of $887. So if you sold it, you get about $2,894. Same thing with the Gold Maple Leaf. These are the premium. These are premium coins in gold. The Gold Krugerrand is even higher by $1 than the American Gold Eagle. If you have those, and also you have the Gold Philharmonic, which is high, $873. So gold is giving great premiums on sellback. And so anytime you could take your profits, you might want to move them into something else. You may just want to take profits just because you want to. It's yours. You could take it. I am not financial advice, but we talk about this stuff every week. So we got let's see, anybody chat room. Yes, yes. Okay, well, we're going to go into the main stories here. Why not? So the first main story, and I know here we go again. Um, we have to talk about BRICS again. We always have to talk about BRICS because BRICS is big deal. It is a big deal, and it's taking up 85% of the population and 50% of the GDP. So it is a big deal and a big player. First thing about BRICS, found this article. It is by Watcher Guru. Is it Watcher Guru? Yes. Watcher Guru slash watcherguru.com. So this title is BRICS proposes use of Bitcoin for international payments at the 2024 summit. Okay, so we talked about the 2024 summit on Friday. And like I said, they're going to leak information slowly. They're not going to give you everything that happened at the summit. So we talked about the few things that they wanted to see in the summit on Friday, but this is a new update. So what we have been talking about is mBridge and the new digital currency called the unit that they want to use for settlements, large settlements. But now we have Bitcoin thrown in here. So I'm going to read. And what has been potential to be one of the biggest points of discussion at the event, the BRICS bloc proposed the use of Bitcoin for international payments at the 2024 summit. Indeed, all eyes were on the leading cryptocurrency as the bloc discussed its ongoing de-dollarization approach. So we all know that they're trying to de-dollarize, right? And they're trying to come up with other ways to pay for their settlements instead of having to use the US dollar. And that's what the unit digital currency is about. That's why they use their local currencies as well to have finishing of these large. And when I say large, these are large payments. When you're dealing with oil or maybe gold and cross borders. The Economic Alliance has continued to find new ways to promote local currencies through its policies. Moreover, there has been discussion that cryptocurrencies could factor into a massive way. Bitcoin could be set to play a big part in the block over the next several years. So that is part of the title, game theory. These people who are rulers of these nation states, they're smart people. And they see the adoption from the West, these large hedge funds, these large companies putting it on their balance sheet. And they have to figure, well, how can we use Bitcoin? How can we be a part of this? And this is what was coming out. So what basket of currencies to use in the United? This is true. That is Aaron. If I don't know if you can hear, but it would be a flat unit that you wouldn't have to bicker about the basket of currencies. Even though the basket of currencies is set up to be equal, something will happen. It looks like that. Nations join. Yeah. Become an equal. Yeah. So we have to always keep an eye on that. They want to have something else in their pocket just in case. So BRICS could implement Bitcoin follow 2024 proposal. Since 2022, the BRICS economic bloc has sought ways to challenge Western economic dominance. The potential creation of its own payment system and the promotion of local currencies have seen it increase the dominance of the US dollar in a big way, all the while increasing the prevalence of the group itself. So, they said since 2022, and you guys remember what happened in 2022? The United States put sanctions on Russia and kicked them off the SWIFT payment system, right? So they made it really hard for Russia to do cross-border transactions. So what Russia has spent their time doing is figuring out a new way to do cross-border transactions. And you've been hearing the last few weeks, these are the ways they have come up with. Now, those efforts could integrate the leading cryptocurrency. Indeed, the BRICS bloc has proposed using Bitcoin for international payments at the 2024 summit. Specifically, a Bloomberg report noted lawmakers have advocated for Russian miners to sell Bitcoin internationally. So what that is Bitcoin. There are a lot of miners in Russia for the extra energy, so they can settle it internationally to other nation states. So they have that going. And like I said, these are the things that very smart individuals have been working on for quite some time. Earlier this year, Russia made headlines by removing its ongoing ban on crypto. That opened the door for the use of asset class throughout international settlements. Moreover, it worked to entice increased trade activity with nations amid the rising interest in the tokens. The report notes that these miners could use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to facilitate the creation of a new way of settling trade. Similar to local currencies, it would operate in effect as a de-dollarization approach. Additionally, it could offer increased protection from growing Western sanctions. And that's what it is. The United States is known for that. If a country's done something they don't like or whatever, what have you, they just sanction them, put sanctions on, right? You hear people saying if there's a certain thing going on, then they'll put tariffs on things, these things that are like bully tactics. And these countries don't like it anymore. And they say, well, screw you. We'll figure out how to do it our own way. And you see it day after day after day, de-dollarization globally. And That is, like I say, a form of war that is countries coming together and trying to crush your currency. It's an act of war. So understand that these things are acts of war if you see somebody trying to smash your currency into oblivion. Okay, so here it says, well, I'm not going to go into this because it gets a little long winded, but the understanding of these countries getting the game theory, not only from the United States and the West, where you see hedge funds and everybody pouring money into it, but also for President Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. He's playing out by he's taking Bitcoin as legal tender in his entire country, and he's putting Bitcoin on his balance sheet for his country. And also, he is going to be mining Bitcoin with geothermal energy from the volcano. So he's trying to find all kind of ways to integrate Bitcoin into his country and throughout the country. So yes, you see gameplay a little bit. You see game theory a little bit in play right there. Um, oh yeah. Overseas, and if they're not using it, those dollars are. Yes, this is true. Evening to Fast Nickel. Hello, Fast Nickel. Nice to see you here again. Let freedom ring. Hello, family. I haven't seen you in a good minute. Let freedom ring. And the wife said, displaying the Trifflin dilemma. We did over the Trifflin dilemma, which is a part of Austrian economics. But what it is when you want to be the world reserve currency, what happens is you have to kind of hollow out your production of your country. And that's why you see the United States is kind of hollowed out from, you remember we had factories and everything was made in the USA. You had things like that. All these now, if you look at it's a lot of shell companies, zombie companies. And what happens is you have to send your dollars out overseas so they're readily available to other nation states to use. And this is about settling payments. And also, what the other nation states don't like is that they have to go and buy the dollars, which is probably an odd thing to comprehend. But if you're in another country, you must purchase dollars, and they're not one for one. It's going to be at a premium. And it's one thing like when you go travel somewhere and you got to buy $100 bill. All right, the premium's not that much, no big deal. But you see here, we're having 6 and 7 figure settlements. So the premium really racks, it really adds up. And so that's why they're trying to find other ways too, because you don't have to buy dollars. If you could use Bitcoin as a settlement, there isn't a premium. If you could use this payment rail with the unit, 40% gold, 60% basket of currencies, there is no premium. There's no premium for that. So the Trifflin dilemma is at play. And if there's not enough dollars to circulate around the entire world, what does the U.S. do? Well, the U.S. is probably going to print more dollars. We said it last show, and I'll keep saying it. The United States prints $1 trillion every 90 days. So they're going to print $4 trillion per year on average, but it may go up and up and up. You've seen, and we've spoken to, the United States is $35.7 trillion in debt as we speak. And I encourage everybody always to check out that U.S. debt clock. And you see a lot of things on that U.S. debt clock. And one other thing that you'll see on that U.S. debt clock is that silver is 408 to 1. So there are 408 paper silver ounces for every 1 physical ounce of silver. So that is next level rehypothecation. And it's ridiculous. But as you see the price going up and people standing for delivery, that number has to come down. It has to come down. You cannot rehypothecate 1 ounce of silver to 408 other people. You know, that's ridiculous. And this is the thing that has been keeping silver's price in check. But now industrial need, the fact that silver is not coming out of the ground at the rate that they're used to, these things are driving the price up. It's also driving up the premium on our top tier silver coins. So yes, 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 yes. That is the tripling dilemma. And that is the dilemma that the United States may find themselves in. Because if you have to continue sending your dollars out and you don't have dollars, when I say dollars, I mean in physical dollars at home, right? You go to your bank and you ask for your $5,000 out your checking account, it's going to be a big deal. You're going to get questioned. The manager is going to have to come out. People want to ask you, well, what are you going to spend your money on? As if, do I have to tell you anything? So, I always urge people not to keep more money in the bank account than they need. We just read an article about a former colleague of my wife's whose bank account was attacked, and she lost over $10,000 in the attack. And these things are happening constantly. These articles come up. Wells Fargo Chase, people are losing their life savings. Then they don't know how. They don't know what happened. So the bank is not a safe place to store your money that you need to spend. And just keep that in mind. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up. Evening. Let me see here. You check what you need to. Yes, that's what I say. Your checking account should only hold what you need to spend. We're a very practical family. We budget, and so we do things, kind of like old school. We write things down. We come up with a list. We go to the grocery store, and we keep these kind of things in mind all the time. And you don't want your checking account attacked, because getting the money back can be hard, especially that amount of money, $10,000. That could be hard. That could be very hard, to recover. We've had situations here where people, I think they like run your card twice or something, and then you go home and you see the transaction on there 2 or 3 times. But that's easy to get back. $25, no big deal. Yeah, they want to argue with you, like, or come back tomorrow, see if the bank. It's ridiculous. We try to use cash as much as we can, and that's just for practicality at this point. So Fast Nickel. I'm an XRP fan. Okay, Russia likes XRP, but because Ripple is a U.S. court, they don't want the BRIC pay currency to be held hostage like the U.S. does the dollar. Well, with that insight, that's a great thing that they're doing, right? Because if they decided to take on XRP and Ripple, but it's a U.S. court, then the U.S. can find another backdoor way to basically put sanctions on them and freeze their transactions. But from what I know about XRP is perfect for something like this, international payment rails. But as you say, because Bitcoin has no counterparty risk, you could use Bitcoin without having to worry about sanctions and things like that. So that's a chink in XRP's armor if they want to compete in this area. So instead, they want a basket of crypto like they have with SDR. Yes, probably so. I would agree with that. That's why I'm looking at Bitcoin. Yeah, I would agree with that. And as they join, lots of going to be Bitcoin. How come we're using we're not using that? Yeah, so it could be, if you use the basket of currencies, it's supposed to be nobody has more than 30%. But if you go out here on a Forex chart, you have one currency weighted way heavier than another, right? So the Russian ruble is going to be weighted higher than probably the real, the Brazil real, right? But so you would think in your mind, the higher weighted currency should have more percentage, right? But they're going to work it to where everybody has 30% or less. But with Bitcoin, you could also, because it's nobody's legal tender, it would be fair to use Bitcoin across payments. So, and you got to, if you guys get a chance, you go check these countries, China, Russia. I can't speak for India, but these countries hold large amounts of Bitcoin, right? So they're ready. It's not like they even have to study up or learn Bitcoin. They understand Bitcoin. You remember a couple of years ago, was it maybe China kicked all the Bitcoin miners out, right? And it was a big exodus and everything. And that's when they kind of put a ban on crypto. But like the article says, they have removed that ban and crypto is more friendly, but Bitcoin being the one. And because Bitcoin, as we've seen it from its inception, the price always goes up. When you do a transaction in Bitcoin, right, and you let it sit somewhere, you know that when you come back for it or you want to use it, it's worth more than when you first got it. And so that is, I think, it's smart on their part to look to have Bitcoin as a payment rail. And I think that the U.S. is moving slow right now. They're moving slow. I don't know what they're trying to do. They're still having an alliance with the Western world, the G7 and all these things. But everybody, US, the EU, they're moving slow. They're moving slow. And the BRICS nations, the BRICS plus, they're moving fast. Every day there's some news about BRICS, but I don't come across any news about the United States making any power moves, doing anything with Bitcoin, doing anything to strengthen the dollar. They're not doing anything. When I come across the US news, it's silliness. Okay, it's silliness. It's gossip. It's about the election, but it's not talking about anything that actually matters. And so that you could just look from the outside and you could see that, to me, the US isn't serious about keeping this up. And we've said this before, having the world reserve currency is a privilege. It's not a right, okay? The United States came out on top in World War II, and so they were granted the privilege of having the world reserve currency. Now, all these years later, the currency is looking weak because they had weaponized the currency over so many years. People don't like to use it, right? If they would have been playing nice or playing fair, people probably wouldn't mind still using the US dollar, but they don't like being put in predicaments where the US gets in its mood and they just put sanctions on you, sanctions on you, sanctions on you. Now, when they put sanctions on smaller countries, that really hurts because the smaller countries, unless they have a large ally, they don't have anybody to really protect them or come in and help them, right? If you guys ever been to Cuba and you look around, sanctions on Cuba has really hurt them being able to get cars, right? New cars. You see all, yeah, you see all kind of old school cars over there. You don't see new vehicles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Cuba is a beautiful place, beautiful landscape. Yeah, retail manufacturing is tough. Cuba can't get anything in. They also, place like Haiti can't get anything in, right? The US goes into Haiti. I'm sorry not to get off topic. And they're supposed to build all these houses. You guys remember that initiative back with Hillary Clinton and some famous people? They go over there. They built less than 5 houses. Do you guys remember that? Somebody tell me if they remember that in Haiti. So these are the things they do to smaller countries because they can. But Russia, you can put them on sanctions, but Russia doesn't care. They'll find a workaround and just keep going about their business. So, you can't put sanctions. You could try to put them on China. Maybe it probably won't work. You get so much products from China, and they own a lot of debt, U.S. debt. So you can't. I don't think you could really do that. Instead, she won a basket of crypto like they had. Okay, I'm sorry, I read that. So that's what's going on right there. And so also we want to read this. We're coming back home to the United States about something. And I had wanted to do this last Friday, but I think we ran out of time. And I said, it's still relevant for today. So this comes from decrypt.com. So I use them from time to time. They do have good articles. So this article's titled Bitcoin ETFs are booming as BlackRock shatters records. Okay. So BlackRock, the largest hedge fund managing company in the world, right? And when you see BlackRock this heavily involved in Bitcoin, the smaller hedge fund companies, they got to get involved. They got to get involved. And so with this, let me know if you understand how it goes with these larger corporations. They can't just say we want to start buying Bitcoin. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, with majority owners, the board, and all this stuff. And then you have to be honest and transparent with your shareholders and let them know this is what you want to do. with Bitcoin and your investments and things like that. So it takes a lot to get this ball rolling. But what this tells me is probably for the last 2 or 3 years, BlackRock has been sitting in the cut, getting everything going, because now they're just moving like, so they've been working on it. Now, these other companies seeing it late will have to work on it. Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, who else? Fidelity. All these people will have to say, oh, we want to get into the Bitcoin game too. So we have to go and get behind the scenes and do the same things I just mentioned. So maybe in 2 or 3 years, you'll see more hedge funds jumping on the wagon. So let's read the article. Demand for Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF exchanges is making other recent ETF launches look small by comparison. Okay, so in case it wasn't already obvious, Bitcoin exchange traded funds, ETFs, are hot with demand for products smashing all expectations. Data from Bloomberg shows that of the 575 ETFs launched this year, 14 of the top 30 products have been either new Bitcoin or Ethereum funds, with top 4 spots owned by Bitcoin funds. So 575 ETFs launched this year, which is not as a lot, but the top 4 spots go to all Bitcoin funds. And in the past 4 years, of the 1,800 ETFs that started trading during that span, BlackRock's iShare Bitcoin Trust is the biggest by far in terms of inflows, the data shows. So iShares Bitcoin, the number one over 1,800 that have come out in the last 4 years. So you see, a lot of people thought the ETF, I'm not sure if it's good or bad. They make good arguments both ways, but what this shows is there is a lot of cash inflow. So let's read. This is Nate Garassi. He is just going over the funds. He's saying, so iTrust is number one, and 6 of the top 10 include other Bitcoin ETF. MicroStrategy is number 2. So MicroStrategy, which holds a large amount of Bitcoin, gives you great exposure to Bitcoin without having to actually own it. So people like it that way. Some people don't actually want it for the freedom and the privacy and things like that. People and corporations want it for something else, mainly to get a return on investment. The banks are leaning to quant. The banks, you say the banks, you're talking about the United States, our 4 top tier banks would like to use quant as, when you say they're leaning to quant, how are they wanting to use quant as far as a bank would go? Fast Nickel, please, if you could let me know that. So here, ETFs are popular investing vehicles that trade on stock exchanges, okay? They allow investors to buy and sell shares that track the price of anything from the S&P 500 and gold to Bitcoin and real estate firms. Yes. So what this is you can own certain things using ETFs, right? We used to talk about real estate ETFs back in the day. They're called REITs, REIT. You have like gold. I used to buy gold ETFs all the time. And then you have the gold miners and stuff like that. There's ETFs almost for anything. And it just follows the price action, right? But you don't really own stock or a piece of that investment. So when you have a gold ETF, you don't really own ounces of gold, right? But if gold goes up 10%, you get to follow that price action and you made a 10% gain. A lot of people love ETFs. I did, and they work out very nice for you. And because a lot of times you'll see ETFs movement be a little bit higher than the actual product itself. So yes, a lot of people will trade in ETFs. In January, the Security Exchange Commission, SEC, approved the Bitcoin's products, allowing 10 such funds to start trading on America's stock exchange after a decade of denial. So you guys remember that. Every year we had to hear about going up, putting them before the SEC. Can we get an ETF? ETF, denied. It got so ridiculous. we kind of just stopped worrying about it, like whatever, they're never gonna let it go. But now they let it through, and here we are. And so, and that's a decade of denial. So all the way back to 2014. The investment vehicles have been widely popular, attracting billions of dollars in inflows. Last week, they collectively crossed the 20 billion mark, smashing expectations by taking just months to do what gold ETFs did over 5 years. Um, so this person, obviously, my beautiful wife, who is has published 5 books and working on another one with my help. See, that'll be out soon. That'll be out soon. But she always tells me, look at what is really being said right there. And so I started doing that and see what was said, which was very, very subtle, but nothing to just skim past. It says it has smashed expectation by taking just months to do what gold ETF did over 5 years. So why pick gold? Why isolate gold? So I would presume that this person writing this article is maybe a type of person who is a Bitcoin 2.0 gold and feels like gold is analog, it has no use. And you see those battles out there, the debates and stuff. I always say, why can't you have both? But some people like, I'm either one or the other. So, you know, for Bitcoin, true Bitcoiners who want nothing to do with gold, that is a huge win because it is really outpacing gold and catching up with it in a very fast way. And the thing about Bitcoin and gold is, for example, the people who own gold really be large corporations, nation states, things like that, central banks. As for us individuals who own gold, it'll probably be owned by older demographic, right? A younger demographic is definitely rather have Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin is way far more portable than gold is. Okay. And that's one of the attributes of money that is very important, portability. So if you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, you can fly all across the world. Nobody knows it. It doesn't take up any space. But try to have that same amount of money in gold. Well, now you got problems going through customs, or if you're going to try to send it on a plane, a private plane, a security plane, how much does that cost? You're still going to have to go to customs, but you get the new, you're going to have to pay some kind of tax on it. We've been there and done that. We've moved a large amount of physical silver from the United States to Mexico because of the way things look in the United States, some of the stuff we hear, and we just didn't like it over there. So we wanted it over here. And they come with you and they look at your silver, the physical. And the funny thing is about it here in Mexico, they don't have somebody who is qualified to put a valuation on the amount of precious metals you have, right? So what they do is they just kind of start throwing numbers at you. And just to see if you'll bite on that number or this number, right? Nobody has valued it. Nobody knows how to value it. They do not have a numismatist. Did I say that right? A numismatist. Yeah, I'm probably gonna mess it up, y'all. But somebody who could grade coins. They don't have that person at the airport. So they can't officially grade the amount of silver that you have. They can't really put a real time tax on it. So you kind of negotiate with them like, all right, I'll pay a tax, and you get it to a number that you like, and you go ahead and pay them, and you keep it moving. Now, another thing I learned is if you have pneumatic coins in your PGCS boxes, those are 20 boxes where you can just put the cartridges in. Most, if not all, numismatic coins will say $1 on them, right? The expensive ones say $5. There you go. So if you got a whole bunch of American Eagles, they'll probably say 1 maybe or 5. You can add them up and they might come anywhere between $40 and $60. Well, you don't have to pay that because it has to be under. Yeah. I think like $150. Yeah, so you don't even have to pay because you could just sit there and add up. It says $1 right here, but they don't know that it's worth $41, right? So, and I'm not trying to beat Mexico out of any money, but you got to do what you got to do, and because they do try to beat us out of money every day of the week here. So, we got to fight back, guys. We got to fight back. Yeah. So, um, okay, the issue with banks is permissionless blockchain. There's no security. Quant solves that. Okay, Quant solves their permission. Quant solves their blockchain problem. There's no security. Okay, well, I mean, if that is the case, I can see that because I've read about some of the proposals that some of these banks are having with talking about custodial rights of your Bitcoin and other things like that. But yes, banks are going to have to get on board some way, somehow with cryptocurrency. They're just going to have to. And because you keep hearing about one of these big banks going to go under. They'll be bought out. They'll be saved, of course, but they're not. They're not solvent. I mean, they're just not solvent. So something has to happen. You see, Warren Buffett is selling so many shares of Bank of America. That would be a red flag to let you know like something is going on if Warren Buffett is just offloading his largest bank holding, not his largest holding, but his largest holding in bank investments. Something's going on right there. And that would be something I would keep my eye on if you were a Bank of America holder or if you use Bank of America in real life. Bitcoin is permissionless blockchain. Yes, yes. So that's what makes it superior to a lot of people, because of that attribute. I don't know much about quant. I mean, I did my reading on it, and it is, it's interesting and it seems cutting edge. But with banks, in my opinion, banks, I don't think they're innovative enough to jump straight to quant. That is my opinion, but you never know. They got the older CEOs. You see Jamie Dimon and oh, okay, thank you. And you see the older CEO of Bank of America. These guys don't think kind of cutting edge, where you see some of the other younger upcoming CEOs and presidents think more cutting edge. So maybe until these guys get some younger, new leadership, but I don't think with the leaders that they have at the top of the banks right now will jump in there with quant. Tether is coming out with a gold-backed stablecoin called Alloy by Tether. So that would be good. That would be definitely good. There you go. So now you have something to pin it to. So when it's a gold-backed stablecoin, is it backed 100% by gold? Is it partially backed by gold? It's something I would like to know if you had that information. But that's a good idea. Is having a coin tied to something. So it's tied to what we call one of three tier one assets, right? And we talk about this all the time. There's three tier one assets in the world. They say it's the US dollar, which I think is going to be fading a little bit. It's US treasuries and it is gold. These are tier one assets that they say have no counterparty risk. I would argue about the dollar and treasury laws, but that's what they tell us. So yes, if you back your coin by a tier one asset, that is very attractive to investors because as you see all this gold moving around, you know that big players still invest in gold, and it is probably the thing you're going to see most because a lot of times these people are protecting money and or looking for small growth, right? They're not looking for the 10x or 100x. That's not what they're doing. So they're looking for protection, a safe place to put their money. And that's why I don't think large corporations and these nation states and things like that, people who are just uber rich, these billionaires who go to private wealth equity companies, they're not looking for that. They're looking for protection of their money and maybe some small growth on your money. Yes, 100%. Okay, well, see, that makes it very attractive. If you can buy a Tether coin that's 100% backed by gold, then there you have it. That's a smart idea. And because gold has a level of scarcity, it's not ultimate scarcity like Bitcoin, but it has a level of scarcity. And that helps the coin have a level of scarcity. Because I don't know if Tether's coins are Can you print them? I mean, can you make more? I don't know if they're scarce like that, but either or, because gold is scarce, the coin has to have a certain level of scarcity. So that'd be very interesting to see Tether come out with this coin called, is it Alloy? That'd be interesting to see. And what year do you know? Do you know what year that might be coming out by? I'm gonna try to finish this argument. Let's see. I think uh, okay, so I don't think it was partly pent up demand, he told Decrypt, but it was also new demand as people are learning more. So that goes hand in hand. There was pent up demand. There were people who were going to their hedge fund managers and they're asking about Bitcoin and they're wondering how they can buy some Bitcoin. This is before they had access. I'm talking about the hedge funds to Bitcoin. You know, there's getting a lot of redirection and misinformation about what Bitcoin is to kind of calm everybody down. But that is not really doing right by your client. You're supposed to do the best fiduciary thing for your client. So many questions came in that they got to take them back to the high level, the C-suite, and say, what do we do about this? What do we do about this? And also, like you said, demand of people learning more, right? They read into it, they looked into it, they understand what it is, and they say, oh, I better get my hands on some of this Bitcoin. And when somebody is a client at, let's say, BlackRock, okay, they pay their manager a lot of money every year to manage their money. So if you don't know how to purchase Bitcoin for them, now you have a person possibly looking to take their business elsewhere. So now you have to start trying to please your clients, or you'll lose your clients to newer cutting edge firms that will love to have you and will buy Bitcoin with no problem and are very knowledgeable about it and can explain anything that you want to know about. So massive institutions, including Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, now have exposure to Bitcoin via the new product. So they have exposure now. So now Morgan Stanley can tell their clients, yes, we can get your exposure to Bitcoin. Goldman Sachs, same thing. They had to wait for the ETF to come. But remember, you still don't own the Bitcoin. So if you have somebody who is concerned with actually owning it, you still would have to go somewhere else to buy it. But that is a good first step to give your clients access to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price movement right there. So that's pretty good. Rest of this is going to go into Ethereum and what they have done with the Ethereum and Grayscale, Ethereum Trust. So there's a lot of things going on with Ethereum. I have some Ethereum, but I'm not I mean, I'm a fan of it, but it's okay. I don't talk about it much. I just keep the Ethereum, and it's done very well, and it's okay. But sometimes I don't understand the technology of it as I read through some of the things. But Bitcoin is the one I'm going to go after. But you do have Ethereum ETFs out there as well, if that is something you'd like to invest in. BTC is permissionless. Yep. This is a link for Alloy by Tether. It's 6 minutes long. Okay. All right. Send me that link. I can check that out.
Send the link in the chat.
Oh, okay. I heard from upstairs. They said you cannot put a link in the chat. Unfortunately, I guess the chat rejects links. It rejects links and websites and stuff like that.
It rejects link and email address.
An email address. So sorry about that. But I can Google that. I could probably find that. Tether Alloy. Okay. So there you go. Another game theory in place. You seen BlackRock has it where they started it, right? And now who's coming behind them? Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. So that's game theory. So now who's going to come after them? These are the largest hedge funds in the world. So the next. And you see it playing all the way out. And we talked about game theory. Max Kaiser talked about it for years and years. You're going to see game theory play out, right? Once somebody does it in your industry, you got to start looking at them like, what are they doing? what could we be missing out on? Maybe we should be doing this. Maybe we should be doing that. And people get antsy and they just go ahead and do it without maybe even understanding what they're getting themselves into. But that's the right move for those two companies. So let's go over here to another one I had, and I had wanted to read this one as well, but I guess I don't think I don't think it's necessarily has anything to do with Bitcoin right here. I'll save it for another day. But what I will do is I will do a hard pivot on this next article. This article really doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin per se, but it could have something to do with Bitcoin if you look at the overall landscape of it. My email, I think it's in the drop down. Let me ask upstairs. Okay, upstairs. Okay, upstairs says it is right in the drop down. It's okay. Okay, it could be on the screen in yellow. It should be right there. I cannot see because the writing is so small. Access the arbitrage at gmail.com. So every email will be answered. Yes, you can send that to me and I will check that out. Now, this is an article by CNN Business, right? Very reputable website. So CNN.com/business. And this is a story I picked up earlier this week on October 27th. And the title of this is More Families Making Over $150,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. All right. Seems like enough money, but let's get into what they're talking about. So here's the intro. Many wealthier households are spending almost their entirety of their paycheck on necessities, a Bank of America analyst found. And that is just his quote. So CNN, when considering who is living paycheck to paycheck, households with an income of six figures or more likely aren't the first to come to mind. But as it turns out, about a fifth of US households that earn more than $150,000 a year are in that situation. For context, a fifth would be 20%, right? 20% of families that make $150,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck, which you would think doesn't make sense. You would think that wouldn't make sense because people out here, the fight is to get the six figures, do stuff like that. But then you get to a higher bracket, tax bracket, seems like you just spend more money because the spending habits are the same. It's just there's more money to do the spending with. So I would say, starting with that, there is a huge lack of discipline right there. But let's go. That's according to a new Bank of America analyst of anonymous U.S. customers, bank accounts, and spending data. The authors of the analysts define people who live paycheck to paycheck as those who dedicate more than 95% of their household income to necessities, which include gasoline, food, utilities, internet, public transportation, childcare, and other housing costs. Well, come on, pull up. I don't know where you're coming from with that one. I know what it means in my mind.
I was saying that means that every transaction you make, the bank is watching exactly how you're spending the money. They're going through ledger after ledger after ledger after ledger. Yeah. Like you don't have the privacy you think you do.
Yes, there are people who paid a lot of money to go through all these ledgers and put together analysis of spending habits, and they're breaking you down in different demographics of how much money you have, how much money this comes in, and this and that. And they're watching your spending. And not to get off the topic, but in CBDCs, that's one of the big complaints is that they'll be able to watch your spending even easier, right? And they'll be able to punish you, if you will, for certain spending, the things that they don't really want you spending on, right? So they'll have a great control over your account. They still do now. So that is them watching everything that you spend, right? And across all income levels, households that earn less than $50,000 a year saw the highest proportion, around 35%, so far this year. But at higher incomes levels, the portion of households living to paycheck falls slowly. For instance, the share of household living paycheck to paycheck and earning between 50 and 75 is only a few percentage points higher than the households earning 150,000. So let's put that in context. So what I said earlier is the people who make $150,000 a year, 20% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so keep that right there. Now, people who make 50%, $50,000 a year or lower, their 95% paycheck to paycheck is 35%. So keep that right there. So what I want to show you is a family with 3 times the salary is still only 15% lower than somebody who has 1/3 of your salary. So the numbers aren't adding up. And, it's not the people who are 50,000 and below are actually doing better. And then when you just jump up to 75,000, which is one half of 150,000, it's only a few percentage points higher. So as the number goes up, they're actually doing worse if you look at the numbers and the percentage points in comparison to people who make less. So um, you would think people out there, 150,000, that is not true. And also, we've done shows over this, but we will remind you always, the number is always relative to where you may live in the United States. So, and that is very important because, for example, somebody who makes $150,000 a year probably has to live in a cutting edge city. I'll call it that, right? Yeah, New York City, somewhere in California, LA, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, cities like this, even, Chicago, places like that. So $150,000 does not spend like $150,000 if you have to work in Manhattan and then you have to get, rent or buy something and then the groceries and everything, all the markups, the inflation. So that eats away at your money immediately. And so 150,000 isn't always 150,000. When we went over the data, the number one place, there is no place in the United States where $100,000 is actually worth $100,000. The number one place in the United States, El Paso, Texas, where $100,000 is worth $89,000. And nobody really goes to El Paso, Texas to make big bucks, guys. So, and I have the list still, and you can go down that list in places like Washington, D.C. You'll get great salaries and stuff. Washington, D.C. is 49%. So what that means is your $100,000 spends like 49,000 in Washington, D.C. And these are the cities where people have these high income jobs. You got a lot of federal jobs in Washington, D.C. I'm a veteran. I know a lot of people stationed who still work out there in Washington, D.C. for that exact reason, federal jobs. New York City, you got the financial district up there, Wall Street. So if you're in that type of business, so $150 could $150, right? That ain't nothing. Apparently, 150,000 could really not be enough, and people are feeling the squeeze on it. I just read this morning the article. The average car note in the United States, $736 per month. That's the average car note. That is very high. And that is very high, I think, for any car. I'm not a big car guy, but just to have that type of bill every month, right? No one wants that. And that's the increase. That's what's coming out. And the inflation. I don't go to the United States. I haven't been there in quite some time. I'm not sure with things like eggs, milk, bread, cereal. I'm not sure how much that stuff costs. Gas, all these things. Visit to the doctor, the dentist, all these things cost. Then you want to send your kids maybe to private school or things like that. Or maybe you have a child, such as we have children who play sports, and now you have to buy all these extras that they need for sports, new shoes, new jerseys.
Or before school care, after school care, daycare.
Yeah, after school care. I got a couple of them now that are growing on me like weeds. So now somebody outgrown their shoes. Shoes perfectly fine, right? Nothing wrong with the shoe, except that he can't fit it anymore. So we gotta go ante up. So all that stuff will eat into your
Income.
eat into your income. And even down here, we have friends who are high level corporate workers in Mexico City. Mexico City is cheaper than some of these cities in the United States, but it's still expensive. And it eats away at their ability. They make a lot of money, but you got to spend a lot of money on your condo, your penthouse. You spend a ton of money on Ubers, right?
Supermarket tax we don't have.
Yeah, supermarket taxes. So you're going to spend some money just living in Mexico City. We live in a rural area, so we get the arbitrage that we speak about. There's no extra tax here, and you could definitely haggle with people, work with people. They give you deals, you get free things, so that you come back and patronize the people. So you get a lot of stuff going on here. It's more it's more intimate, if you will, right? When you go to the store, the people know you. We go to the same guy, get our fruits and vegetables. He knows us. He gives us free stuff. He's familiar with the things that we like to eat because we kind of get the same thing every time. Yeah, so he makes sure he keeps that on stock. My wife is she loves her vegetables. She likes her leafy green vegetables. It's kind of hard out here to find spinach and what's the other one? Kale and romaine lettuce, but he keeps that. He keeps that. And for me, I like to get my grapes, watermelon, things like that. He's always got it on hand. We go to other people to get some other things, like my son, he goes to Tame Guy to get his chicken, and he cooks his chicken up, fries his wings, he do his thing. We go to the same, yeah, we go to the same people to get our fish. And they know us. They see us coming. They get us. They get the little stuff ready, and we get the same thing. Well, we gonna get some salmon or some shrimp, or we gonna get some mahara. And mahara is just a fish here in Mexico that would be similar to tilapia in the United States. But they see us coming. They're happy. They give our son. They always give him toys, the little things, suckers. So it's great to be in a small rural place where you can be a part of the community. People in the community know you, and you can feel like it feels more cozy. With Mexico City, it's just as big as New York City, if not bigger, right there in the 21, 22 million people. It's not cozy down there. I don't think so. You think it's cozy? Yeah, it's like New York. You go to a place, it's just they don't remember you. It's you go over here, they don't remember you. They just can't take your order, no smiles, no nothing like that. So sorry to get off topic right there, but that 150,000 look like it's not hitting like it used to, and you know why? Another reason, because of the loss of purchasing power of the dollar. And we could go through a whole nother show where if you took the excess of your salary, even if it's only 5%, and something that gains value and not loses value, you still be doing better off. Even if you got to spend 90% of your salary, and if you have to, and it's because of the things you have, you got a house, you got cars, you got family, people have all kind of things going on. So I would never, look down on somebody for having to spend all their money. But if you can, keep a portion and get something that appreciates in value, and don't hold it in a depreciation vehicle like the US dollar. So that's there and that. Excuse me, let me see. Got a couple people jumping in on me. All right. I went to the about page by the email. It's King's email. Okay. I don't know. I would have to give me one second because I have to open up YouTube to see what it actually looks like. Salute Wealth Stewards. Thank you. This is Casper Cooper. Am I saying that right? Casper Cooper. All right. No Q, but Cooper. So I understand what she's saying, but I'm not on YouTube.
Well, hold on.
So I would have to look at YouTube's display.
I'll make sure that's what I put on there. All right. I'll make sure I put it in the drop down.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna do it next show. But if you catch it and write it down, it's assets and arbitrage.
No, assets.arbitrage.
So all right, assets.arbitrage at gmail.com. So that is the email. Salute. Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Casper. Purchase Power is key. Check your local global CPI. Yes, indeed. We talked about the CPI. They play little games with the CPI, right? They put certain things in there and they leave out things that matter. Sometimes they leave out rental costs, home buying costs. That is one of the largest portions of your bills, but they're going to leave that out as a CPI. Where you read all over, housing costs are going up, renting costs are going up, but we're going to omit that from the CPI. That's the one that I don't like. The CPI is personal because if your family is like your business or whatever, so you have a personal CPI, whether you're young and you have a family, so a lot of your money goes to things for children, so you have to watch inflation on those type of things, diapers, formula, so on and so forth. You got to buy new clothes because the baby grows, all these things. That would be in one person's CPI, whereas another person, such as myself, I don't have small children, so the increase in diapers doesn't affect us, right? But the increase in something else does affect us. Why it wasn't affect the next person? So you build your own personal CPI, right? And you could do that if you drive a lot, long commutes to work. You guarantee you gas is in your CPI. We work from home. We're at home a lot. We don't drive as much. And when we do drive, it's short trips. It's just to the market. We don't do a whole bunch. So gas isn't eating us up as much because we don't use as much gas as maybe the next person would, so on and so forth. So CPIs are personal to your family or individual yourself. And then, so these numbers they put out by CPI are a lie. Michael Saylor, he'll tell you he thinks CPI is at least 20%. I agree with it because I go to the market and see things that we buy. Something was 25 pesos and now it's 30 pesos. You're like, well, that was only 5 pesos, not a big deal. But if you break it down by percentage, that's close to a 20% increase. And that's a lot. Nobody gets 20% raises at their job. This stuff doesn't happen. So every year, if you can't keep up with the cost of living increase by, if you are an employee W-2 worker, if you can't get at that 20% increase, or if you're a business owner, you can't get 20% increase on your profits year over year, you're losing money. You're losing money and it's because of the US dollar. That's why we say for you see these larger corporations putting Bitcoin in their treasury reserves, where if you take your profit and just stack it at your treasury reserve in Bitcoin, you definitely get over 20% return. So now you can keep up with the cost of living and outpace it. So that is a very useful way of using Bitcoin as a small business and as a family household. And you can build in your own home a family treasury reserve assets, right? What is it? It's a fancy word for what? Savings account, right? It's just a fancy word for that. So if you got your own savings, instead of saving in your savings account in Wells Fargo, where you're going to get 25 basis points at the end of a year, you could put your savings into Bitcoin and or precious metals. And it looks like year over year now, with Bitcoin, you're going to get at least 50 to 60. And with precious metals, it goes back and forth, but really you're seeing 22 to 25%. Now, silver year to date is up 42% and gold is up 35%. So that's where you want to keep your savings, your treasury reserves. And you won't have the paycheck to paycheck feeling as much. So, to sit down and that could be one of your goals. We talk about 12-week year. That could be a goal that you would like to implement and try. That could be your goal in a 12-month year. It'd be very good for people like that who may be living paycheck to paycheck, save in those assets that will make you money. Bitcoin has outperformed stocks. Yes, it has. It has. I mean, it's just plain and simple. And that's why these people like BlackRock and Morgan Stanley had to capitulate, right? Because all the evidence says that you're being done by holding stocks and you could just be over here making money like we are. And they get mad at us because they're old. They're old guys, man, in their 60s or 70s, and they see young people making some money. And they think we didn't earn it. We didn't have the education and the schooling and stuff like that. Man, we had education and schooling, and yes, we did earn that money. So they're just embarrassed a little bit that they have to get on the train with us, right? It way outperforms stocks, even your favorite stocks, your FANG stocks. It far outperforms them, and it doesn't have counterparty risk, right? We talk about this all the time. There is no CEO of Bitcoin putting outrageous and outlandish posts on Twitter to make the volatility in the price movement. You have that all over the stock market, right? And not all CEOs do that, but enough. There's enough who do it and come out and say certain things that might damage your position. I've seen people get damaged by positions just on stuff that somebody came out and said. So you have to be careful, right? Stocks. I was in stocks for many, many years, back to the '90s, and I followed them, and I just once I got into Bitcoin, I seen how much safer and easier it was to deal with Bitcoin. I keep some stocks, but not a lot. I keep some stocks, not a lot. And I'm not financial advice, but it does far outperform the stock market. And one of the things you wanted to do is you always wanted to try to find these developing stocks, these stocks on the rise, and stuff like that. And those stocks can be hard to find. And throughout, if you're looking through the stock market, where you get some crazy gains on a small company that's just coming up and has a great use case. So those stocks are hard to find. It's a lot of work, a lot of research. And so, if you keep your Bitcoin and you keep your precious metals as stores of value and as investments, you really can't go wrong up to this point, right? I seen article last week with Bitcoin at around 65,000. They said if you go over to places like glassnode.com and you can check the movement of Bitcoin, they say 94% of all Bitcoin owners and holders are in the profit. Did you hear that? So all the people who own Bitcoin, 94% are in the profit. That means 6% are not. But what happens is that 6% probably and most likely bought a little bit higher than 65,000. Maybe they caught it at 68, 7. Maybe they caught it at the all-time high. And they happen to be the 6% that's not in the profit. But here's the thing. If they have a long-term tie preference and they have what they call diamond hands, this time next year, they'll be part of the 90 plus percent that's in the profit. And you can just go look at that over chart, over chart, over chart, right? I keep doing it to chart, and I'll do it again. Bitcoin around this time last year, I think was about 28,000. I can't remember the exact number, but so back then, if you bought it at 28,000 and you felt like, oh, that might have been too much, as the year progressed, you see that was a great buy. So 94% of Bitcoin holders are in the profit. That's why so many of us are happy. And you see, we're glad to talk about it. You see people with Bitcoin, they got smiles on their face. It's a different demeanor. It's just like we feel like it's different. It's airy, it's lighty. With stocks, the stocks can weigh you down and stuff like that. But Bitcoin, man, it makes you feel better. Year to date, Bitcoin up 50%, 56%, and the S&P 500 is only up 22.8%. So there you go. Thank you for that, Fast Nickel. Thank you for that. So there you go. That's just numbers right there. You can't beat the numbers, and there's no way the S&P can jump that high in this last quarter. That's not how it works. So you guys know. Now, granted, 22.26% is a good return on investment. That is a good return on investment. And so if you had some kind of nice index fund of the S&P 500, that is a solid return on investment. But what we're saying is if you had Bitcoin, you're at 56%, that is a wonderful return on investment. And we're not saying you got to throw everything you got into Bitcoin. Just allocate a small portion of your fund towards Bitcoin and dip your toe, get your feet wet, see how it goes, see how you like it, see if you're comfortable with it. And then as time goes on, you can get more and more into it. And that's all we're saying. I don't know why they hate Bitcoin so much. It's just we found something, and like I said, we have a different demeanor than they do. Bitcoin November 1st, 2023 was 34,000. All right, so 1 year back, 34,000, and right now I think it's 69 something. So that's a 100% return, a little bit over 100% return in 1 year. 1 year without really having to do anything. You understand that the price is going to go up, right? When people were telling us, and I was there, I guess bet you guys were there, that when Bitcoin started dropping, and it was all kind of people, all kind of naysayers coming on here with their charts talking about, oh, it could go back to 16,000. And then they say, oh, it could go back 9,700, 4,500. Everybody had their numbers to where they could see it going back down. So you've seen a lot of people hesitant to buy because it was falling fast and they didn't know where the floor was. But in my opinion, for me, I'm just gonna buy it. It's cheaper, right? I bought it cheaper then for what it is now, and I just held on to it, didn't do anything with it, and got 100%. That means if I bought $100 worth, it's now worth 200. Where if you bought the S&P 500, you bought $100 worth of that, now it's worth $122. So that's the difference. And then use orders of magnitude. I use $100, keep the math simple. But if you buy $1,000, you can see same numbers. But $1,000 now worth 2,000, where $1,000 is now worth $220, and so on and so on. So you have these returns that are very big year over year. Say that. I'm sorry. Yep. $1,200, you'd have made $222, where the person would have made $1,000 on top of the 1,000 they invested. And this is the things you got to kind of look at. And I understand that people are protecting their money and they may not want to take the Bitcoin risk. So yes, you have to. Everybody, when they're investing, should do some kind of risk assessment. That should be one of the first things you do when you're trying to get into the investment game, so that you know whether what you're trying to protect, what you're trying to grow, what you're willing to take a large risk on. Some people have different risk aversion. So somebody be like, yeah, and I'm young, I'm gonna go ahead and overdo it, go over the top with it, because I have time to come back if anything bad happens. Other people, you might have somebody who just retired, worked 35 years at a job, and is not willing to risk that pension that he put away for 35 years. So then he wants something safer with less volatility. And I can understand that. But just saying we'll give you some numbers, just out there to see how investments are going this year. And you can overlay this with, if you want to do, she did it with the S&P 500, but you could overlay it with individual stocks, and you'll see Bitcoin is up. It has outperformed is a better word, most of these stocks. Take your FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, and overlay the chart and see how it compares to Bitcoin. And because I mentioned earlier, silver is up 42% this year. So even that, silver doesn't usually stay as close as that to Bitcoin, but silver's been really, really getting going this year, especially in the last 3 months. You could overlay silver and gold, which is up 36%, I believe. And not many investments are up 36%. And so I have stopped following a lot of large stocks anymore. I used to keep them on the ticker just to see what they're doing. But then I started to notice, like, after a while, it really doesn't even matter, right? Why am I looking at the price of Amazon stock? I'm not going to buy any. And so I don't really care anymore, and things like that. So, we all in, we all in. I like it. I like it like that. I just emailed you. Okay, thank you, Fast Nickel. You emailed the video of Alloy. Emailed the video of Alloy. So we'll check that Alloy video out. See about getting some. Because I like something back 100% by gold. That's right up my alley. But yeah, those are the only stories I found interesting. A couple of boring stories on there. I don't know, man. Sometimes they don't. It feels redundant, so I just picked out a couple things that feel a little bit, um, they feel a little more relevant, so you can see the innovation and stuff that people are doing. One thing I am going to, and maybe when I wait for my wife to get back, one thing we are going to do is we're going to get back to talking about the other part of the arbitrage that we haven't talked about for a while, but the ability of planting flags and using your spending power if you still have in the US dollar and leveraging it against weaker currencies all around the world. This should be in some people's playbook. Now, I know everybody can't do it, but those who have the opportunity to do it, you really have to look into it. You have to look into it because the world, if you guys keep up with global news, you know the world is looking like a crazy place everywhere. I know it's wild and crazy over there in the United States. Um, and so you have to understand your surroundings. You have to be self-aware of where you are. You have to understand where you might like to go, right? Don't go to a place that's just the cheapest. You know, one of the main things you need to look into is the stability of a country, the stability of their government. Um, you have to look at those things, safety, right? You got to look into a whole bunch of stuff, healthcare. But we're going to get to talking about that because the United States is not really giving anybody anything. And with all these remote workers coming online now and they're getting high salaries, you can just leverage that. You don't have to come in any day of the year. You can leverage that by going to a very cheap place, very temperate weather, beaches, beautiful blue water, and you can work there. And so your $150,000 a guy will go way more. Right now, because of the strength of the dollar against the peso, so it's about 20 to 1 right now. So it takes 20 pesos to equal one US dollar. That is what it is, as I checked earlier this morning. So with that being said, if you go through the mathematics of that, because I used to go through this, I used to chart this so I could show Aaron certain different things and certain ways that I was looking at the investment arbitrage. And just helping her see my perspective of it. You could do the math on it. So when you have a 20 to 1 uh, dollar to peso exchange rate, what happens is you have a 3x to 5x uh, exponentially on your US dollar. So if you made $100,000 a year, to get it right, you would at least living in Mexico, the 100,000 would spend like 300,000, right? That's bare base minimum. Now, if you can find another place, a cheaper place, a rural place that you're comfortable with, stuff like that, then you'll get maybe the 4x or the 5x, right? Where your money just spends like you wouldn't believe. You can get all kind of things over here for super cheap. And we've talked about this a long time, just because uh, my wife and I, and even the kids, we love fruits and vegetables. We go down that place, man, we get out of there less than 100 pesos. With 100 pesos is $5. And we're getting a lot of good stuff. And, in the United States, when I was last there a long time ago, you went to a place like Whole Foods and they was blowing your doors off, right? Stuff costs so much to just get something healthy. And so even on that, you get stuff very cheap. You can get your meat cheap. If you're chicken, beef, fish, whatever you like to eat, it's very cheap. If you want to rent a property, man, that's so cheap you couldn't believe it. And most rentals, if not all, you don't have to pay utilities. So it's kind of wrapped up in your rent. I mean, and then you get a nice 4 or 5 bedroom house, man, $500-600, nothing to worry about, easy breezy. And so you want to have that leverage on deck, and you at least want to check it out and look into it because okay, thank you for that. She on top of the game. Okay, I'm sorry. Fast Nickel is on top of the game. Bitcoin hit 70K at 7 p.m. I missed that. All right, but it's now 69.87. Okay, they're gonna play the little game with it. That's okay. We get okay, my bad. But that's gonna be fun tonight. I can sit up and watch this little fight at 70. Nothing else to do, and I think it's fun to watch that battleground right there. But also, and you understand this, and also if you are, because I keep a Bitcoin emergency account. Is that what we call it, right? Bitcoin emergency account. And we talked about that at length, right? The Bitcoin Saved My Life episode, right? And, you know, out of the blue, we had to reach back and grab a lot of Bitcoin profits, right? Because of my hospital stay. And because here they work different and stuff, you got to kind of come cash money with it. So just having Bitcoin as an emergency fund is a great thing to do as well. But I use it as a spending fund. So now what you have is everybody looks at Bitcoin and the USD. But what I do and what we do and what we have to do is we look at Bitcoin versus the Mexican peso. And that's a whole different advantage point, right? So now at 70,000, Bitcoin Mexican peso, I believe, is going to be over 1 million pesos. So now you get to leverage the strength of Bitcoin, which is stronger than the dollar, leverage over the Mexican peso. You get to go straight from Bitcoin to the Mexican peso. And that leverage is huge. So you can live in these places, man, and be very happy, be successful. Like I said, it's healthy, great weather, and you know, but you got to do your due diligence. You have to do your research and understand where you're going, understand what's available to you there for your needs as a family or as an individual. You have to understand these things. I know you guys hear a lot about Mexico and the cartel crime and the things that go on. And I wouldn't lie to you. That is, it's not a lie. But what happens is, you know, Mexico has a certain way of what they call protecting the seat of government. So the seat of government would be Mexico City, which is the capital of the country, which is centralized. It's central Mexico. So a lot of the stuff you hear about cartels is kind of out west, right? You hear about Sinaloa and Oaxaca and these places like that. That's where the violence is. That's where the cartels go and take over whole cities and towns. We just read in a span of a week, 4 mayors got executed in a span of a week. Mayors of cities, and one mayor was the mayor of Guadalajara, which is Mexico's second largest city. So it wasn't like he was just mayor of some old little Puebla. He was mayor of the second largest city in Mexico, and he was executed. So that crime and violence is out on the west, you know, Acapulco, these places. A lot of people like to go to Puerto Vallarta, which is on the west coast of Mexico. But, you know, a lot of people find it dangerous. It's not a long bus ride, but what are they doing? Cartels are stopping buses and they're robbing people. They're stopping buses and they're kidnapping people, right, Aaron? So it's dangerous to even travel by bus when it's really cheap and they have really nice buses, you know, and you would like to travel there, but it's too many variables that could happen. And especially eyed in on what they call gringos, but you know, us expats. So there is danger out west. There is a threat of danger down south in some of these other states of Mexico. So we understand that. This is why we decided to be very close to the seat of government. You know, government will not let the cartels come anywhere into their moneymaker, right? People might not see it like this because when everybody goes to Mexico, it's Cancun, River.
Keep that in order.
Yeah, they got to keep that in order. These places that everybody go by the Gulf of Mexico. But a lot of people don't realize how big of a tourist city Mexico City is. And they got to keep Mexico City intact all the time. And there's some really bad neighborhoods in Mexico City. And it's to the point where the way they got to set it up, there's some nicer neighborhoods in Mexico City, and you can't even come into their neighborhoods. They got to police down like that. They have these taxi cabs that I learned about. And so they're pink and white. And they have problems with these taxi cabs kind of. What they'll do is you tell them where you want to go. You don't know where you're going, right? You're going to your hotel, your Airbnb. They know you don't know where you're going. Sometimes they'll take you somewhere, dead end alley. They got people ready to jump out, rob you, do all this stuff. And so those taxi cabs lost favor with with the people who were visiting tourists, lost favor with them. So what happened is everybody just started using Uber, and they had other rideshare apps, Lyft, Beat, some other ones. And nobody will use the cabs anymore. The cabs are losing money. But because of the behavior of that, you know, you can't blame anybody. With Uber, you all know you have a receipt of where you went, where you dropped off, how long it took, everything. So if somebody knows where you came and went, and it's just safer. Now, what I brought all that up to say is in some of these 3 or 4 nicer neighborhoods, those cabs aren't allowed. They're not even allowed. You won't see a cab in any of those neighborhoods. It's all ride shares. And because people are comfortable with that. And because I say, it's like any other big city. You're in a nice neighborhood, turn this way, now you're not, right? And that, as us as tourists, well, we're not tourists anymore, but as a tourist, you like to walk around and look at stuff and see for things, and you could just be going the wrong way. How often have we been walking and people, I guess, nice enough to say to it, cuidado. Cuidado where we're at. Cuidado means be careful, right? So people will tell you cuidado, especially when it starts to get dark, and you thank them, and it gives you a heads up that you might be moving in the wrong direction and stuff like that. But we're not the types to be out at night, but we might have a dinner at 7:30 or 8, and then we get right back to our Airbnb. We rather get up early and see the sights, walk around, do stuff like that during the day. But yeah, they're gonna keep the seat of government clean. So there won't be any cartel takeovers or shootouts, stuff like that in Mexico City. If you do see that, then that means government has lost all control. And that's why also when you live in other places, because some of these places, their regime can change on the turn of a dime. So you have to be nimble enough to be like, oh, we got to make a move, right? And that's part of it, though. That's part of it. Mexico, as far as their government issues, they just had a new president voted in this year. She took office recently. She was the protege of the last president. Okay, so pretty much the things in the government won't change much. Her main objective, I read, is to get her oil company, which is called Pemex, which is $100 billion in debt. She has to get that in order. So that's job number one for her. She is the first female president in Mexican history. So she has some other issues to get in order with feminism and some femicide problems here in Mexico. So femicide's a big deal. If you're familiar with that is, it's just abuse and domestic violence of women.
Get unalive.
Yeah, get unalive. It don't just be a little this or that. It goes to extremes. A lot of times, even here, we'll see flyers for people who are missing. They're typically always women. And so that's a problem that she wants to get in order. What else that I read? She wants to get in order. And then just the normal things, just to ramp up the GDP. She has to, keep trade with the US, their number one trade partner, right? So you got to keep that interaction good. So she's sitting on the sidelines, waiting patiently to see who is going to be the next president of the United States, so that she can get to work on that. And because that's a big deal, and so that's what she has. Nowhere did I see getting these cartels in control. So I mean, sometimes I feel like they try to turn a blind eye to it. But at some point in time, you're going to have to address it. You're going to have to address it. And that's what, President Bukele did. Now, on a far smaller scale, because El Salvador has about 6 million people, right? So there's almost 4 times more people in Mexico City than there is in the whole country of El Salvador. So he had the ability to do that on a smaller scale. Mexico, you can't do that. It's just wipe out all the crime, because Mexico does have 31 states of its own. So you could go state by state to get things done. But yeah, that crime out west is real, and it's a problem. And they don't play any games out west, and they don't play by the rules. So it's hard to attack them in that way. And they even have the United States coming in and doing nighttime covert missions and helping the Mexican military and the Mexican police. And that's, United States best of the best. We're talking about Navy SEALs, Delta Force, best of the best coming in and helping. So yeah, stay away from those places out west. But if you want to come to the middle, don't even worry about it. It's lovely. They take care of you. They show you love. They do a lot of things that people learn English. I guess that's what I heard. They even turn down the heat on some of their salsas to cater to us. So
No, that's some like European. That ain't gonna have nothing to do with us.
oh yeah, so Mexico is a great place, but check out all over the world, whatever suits you. And like I said, we're gonna put that book out about the flag theory. 170,000, 70,070. Back and forth, back over 70. So it's gonna be a fight right there. So that's gonna be interesting for the night. So hopefully when I get back with you, we might be blowing through the all-time high. That's what I like to see for this week. That's the goal, even though I don't have to say so. But yeah, you guys got any more questions? I got to get on up out of here. It is 7:53 where we are, so I guess on the East Coast it's getting close to 10. So if you guys have any questions or comments, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. I'll try to come back on Friday. I feel like Friday would be a good day. End of the week, we can kind of sum things up and see what's going on, see what's happening. I also let me look at my calendar. Let me see. Let me ask over here. Friday.
It's the first one.
Okay, so it's the first. Oh wow. All right. So Thursday will be the last day of the month. And then Friday will be the beginning of a new month. Remember, we talk about this. This is the end of Q4. Q4 is shorter than the other 3 quarters because of the holidays and the way that people trade. You have some people there's different things for tax reasons. You'll see CEOs selling off shares, things like that. You'll see reaction to that typically is usually negative. In my experience, you see somebody sell off a lot of shares for tax reasons, and then you'll see the price go down. So we have that. So you got a short right up about to Thanksgiving, right? And then the time off for Thanksgiving, and then kind of people are shutting down the beginning of December. And so then once you get into the holiday season, it's pretty much done until the top of the new year. So, make your moves, right? November's the last really whole month to get it going. So let's make those moves. Good night, people. Thank you for being here. I will see you on Friday. Much love.